Welcome to Globalpose News. Donald Trump has taken aim at Ukraine after its president, Volodymyr Zelensky, said it was a surprise his country had not been invited to talks in Saudi Arabia on ending the war with Russia. Saying he was disappointed by Ukraine's reaction, he appeared to blame Ukraine for starting the war, saying the country could have made a deal earlier. A full-scale Russian invasion sparked the war in Ukraine almost 3 years ago. Earlier on Tuesday, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Riyadh for the first high-level, face-to-face talks between the two countries since the invasion, and agreed to appoint teams to start negotiating the end of the war. Lavrov said his country would not accept peacekeeping forces from NATO countries in Ukraine under any peace deal, a proposal raised at a meeting of European members of NATO in Paris on Monday. European NATO states, who remain committed to supporting Ukraine against Russia, have been smarting at being sidelined by Trump's unilateral peace initiative, which reversed the resolutely pro-Ukraine policy of his predecessor as president, Joe Biden. Following what he referred to as the infamous meeting, to which Ukraine was not invited either, Zelensky accused the Russian delegation in Riyadh of lying, adding that Russia could not be trusted and must be pressured for peace. Speaking to reporters at his Mar-a-Lago residence, Trump was asked by BBC News what his message was to Ukrainians who might feel betrayed. "I hear that they are upset about not having a seat. Well, they've had a seat for 3 years and a long time before that. This could have been settled very easily," he said. "You should have never started it. You could have made a deal," he later added. "I could have made a deal for Ukraine," he said. "That would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have killed, and no city would have been demolished." After the meeting in Riyadh, Trump said he was much more confident. "They were very good," he said. "Russia wants to do something. They want to stop the savage barbarianism. I think I have the power to end this war," he added. Trump also criticized the length of time since an election was held in Ukraine, when asked if the U.S. would support Russian demands for one to be held. "They want a seat at the table, but wouldn't the people of Ukraine have a say? It's been a long time since we've had an election," the president responded. He also claimed Zelensky, who won a 5-year term in 2019, was down at 4% approval rating. Zelensky has remained in office while the country has been under martial law following the onset of the conflict. One opinion poll in December suggested 52% of Ukrainians surveyed said they trust Zelensky. Meanwhile, when asked about the prospect of European countries sending troops to Ukraine, Trump said, "If they want to do that, that's great, I'm all for it." However, he added of a potential U.S. deployment of troops, "We won't have to put any over there because, we're very far away." After Monday's meeting in Paris, British Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said any Ukraine peace deal would require a U.S. backstop to deter Russia from attacking its neighbor again. Sir Keir said a U.S. security guarantee was the only way to effectively deter Russia, and vowed to discuss the key elements of a peace deal with Trump in Washington next week. Also at the talks in Riyadh were U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff and U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, as well as Russian presidential aide Yuri Ushakov and the head of Russia's Sovereign Wealth Fund, Kirill Dmitriev. Stressing that Moscow would not agree to peacekeeping forces from NATO countries in Ukraine under any peace deal, Lavrov said, "Any appearance by armed forces under some other flag does not change anything. It is of course completely unacceptable." He said the US and Russia would appoint ambassadors to each other's countries as soon as possible and create conditions to restore cooperation in full. "It was a very useful conversation. We listened to each other, and we heard each other," he said. He reiterated Russia's previous position that any expansion of the NATO defense alliance, and Ukraine joining it, would be a direct threat to Russia. Rubio for his part said he was convinced Russia was willing to begin to engage in a serious process to end the conflict. There has to be concessions made by all sides. We're not going to predetermine what those are. Today is the first step of a long and difficult journey, but an important one, he added. Rubio said the European Union was going to have to be at the table at some point because they have sanctions as well that have been imposed. On the absence of Ukraine at the meeting, he insisted no one is being sidelined. Everyone involved in that conflict has to be okay with it. It has to be acceptable to them, he added. The talks in Paris, which were hastily arranged in response to the apparent rapprochement between Russia and the US under Trump, did not agree a unified position. Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz said discussing sending troops to Ukraine at present was completely premature. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk also said he did not intend to send troops, while Italy's Giorgia Meloni, the only European leader to attend Trump's inauguration, expressed doubts. She told the meeting in Paris that deploying European troops would be the most complex and the least effective way of securing peace in Ukraine. For more updates, news, views from around the globe, follow us on all our social media platforms at Globalpose.